Hi and welcome back to Darvanalee Designs Studio. For those that don't know, my name's Nicole Reed and today we are working on our foundation paper piecing block of the month series, and we're at block number 6, and this one's called Cross Canoes, and as you can see it's a nice easy simple block to do, so let's get started. Okay, so you're just going to need a few things today. You're going to need your fabric. You're going to also need your templates. So you'll need to head over to our blog and download those and print them off. You'll find the link for that down in the description box down below. You're going to need some pins, some quilting rulers, a quick unpick just in case, a rotary cutter, a glue pen, a hand presser, and a paper scissors and some thread snips. And I also like to use this little bit of template plastic just to help me line things up. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is actually cut our template out, and as always I like to cut a little bit past that outer line, and that just gives me that little bit of added security that I'm going to meet all the seam allowance requirements. Okay, so we've cut that out, and the first colour piece of fabric we're going to need, and remembering our light grey is playing with my red, so that's your medium colour, and then this is your dark colour, which is my black, and then my two outside pieces are white. So just work out what colours you're using where, and then you'll be right to go. So I'm going to grab my glue pen, and I'm just going to flip my page over just like I've done for the other blocks, and I'm just going to put a little strip of glue just there, not a lot, just a little bit. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my piece of red fabric right side facing up over that center bit that I need to cover, and I can see there this is just out of my scrap bin. That's why I tell you to keep all your scraps, and that is going to fit that area quite nicely. So next I need to see what the next color is, and it's going to be what I'm using for my background, which is white. So basically all I'm doing is grabbing my piece of template plastic, and I'm just going to create that 1/4 inch seam. I flip that paper back, I grab my ruler, and I place the 1/4 inch mark on the edge of the paper. Now, as I've said before, I'm not using any specialized tools or anything like that. I'm just using what I have in my sewing room, and most people have template plastic and basic quilting rulers, but there are many specialty items that you can get for foundation paper piecing, but I'm just showing you the basics this time. So we line that up, then I grab my rotary cutter and I just trim off that excess fabric, and again I just pop that over into my scrap, and now I've got a 1/4 inch seam allowance there. I'll flip that back over, and I need to grab some white fabric for that. So I'm just gonna get these pieces. I've got these couple of pieces that were in my scrap bin, and I'm just going to lay them down on here, and I can see that they're going out past the block, so I'm good for the outer seam allowance, and I can see that that is big enough to cover this side of the template. So what you're going to do is you're just going to lay them right sides together just like so, and because this is a bigger piece I am going to put a couple of pins in, and I'll just put one there and then one down this end, and that's just going to hold it in place for me. So now what I'm going to do is head over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch on this solid black line. Okay, so you can see there that I've just stitched down on that line, and I've just used a little bit of a darker thread so you can see it on the other side. Now I can take those pins out, and then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip this over and press that out with my fingers and my little hand press. And as you can see, I've got a fair bit of excess there. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to run the rotary cutter around that and just get rid of that excess. Now if you find that this is moving on you, you can just get your glue pen, because it is quite a large piece, and you just put a couple of little dots there within the template, and then just hand press that down, and you can see there that we've got our nice angle happening. Now all I need to do is switch this around, flip it over, and then we're going to put A3 on, which is again a white piece. So I just grab my template plastic, line that up on that solid black line, flip it over, grab my quilting ruler, get rid of that excess into my scrap pile, and then grab my white piece of fabric that I'd set aside before. Again, we just line those up, raw edge to raw edge, and then right sides touching. Grab yourself a pin, pop it down in this end, and you want to make sure that you're away from that line that you're going to stitch on, because you don't want to run over your pin. And then pop that one down there, then head over to the sewing machine and stitch on this solid line here. Okay, so we've sewn that into place. Remove your pins, and you're just going to repeat like what you did to the opposite side. So we're going to open that out, give that a really good press with our hands, and then just run our hand presser up. So you can see here we've got a nice sharp angle here, and again I've got this excess, so I'm just going to trim that off roughly around the outside of that paper, and that gets rid of it, and we continue working on. Again, if you've got some a glue pen, just put a couple of little dots there, and that's going to help hold that in place. So now we're up to this last bit, which is black, so I'm going to flip that over. I'm going to put my template plastic over onto the line, and then I'm going to bring that back, grab my ruler and rotary cutter, and just slice that off. Now these pieces here I will discard because they're too small, and you can see here that my piece isn't quite got enough there, but that's okay because I'm going to be stitching on this line, and there's still a little bit of a seam allowance there, and it's going to get caught up. So if you do find you don't want a big hole there, like that will leave, if I was back here I would have to definitely take that piece off, but because it's still going to get caught up in the seam allowance, I'm alright with that one. So now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our black fabric, and again I've just gone into my scraps, and then I'm just going to align that up and flip that over, and you can see that's going to cover the whole lot, and I'm not going to have any issue whatsoever. Grab a pin and pop that in place so it doesn't move on you. Flip it over, and then we're just going to stitch straight across there. So we've stitched that in place, get rid of our pins out of there, and then we can flip that over, and you can see there that that little bit that was gone is now covered up in the seam allowance, and it's still going to go together quite nicely. So give that a bit of a hand press with your hand presser, and now we're ready to trim this block up. So all we need to do for that is grab our ruler, then you're going to place your 1/4 inch mark on the inside dark line, just like so. Grab our rotary cutter and just trim that excess away. So once we've trimmed all this up, you're going to repeat that with the remainder of your templates, bearing in mind where you have your different colors going, and then we will be ready for final assembly. Okay, so I've repeated that with all of my blocks, and now what I'm going to do is put the layout, and it's a super easy block to do this one. We are going to bring block A and block B together, just like so. And then we're just going to stitch on this inner line here for the 1/4 inch. Now don't forget to reverse at the beginning and at the end, just to make that nice and secure. Okay, so we've done that one, and now we've got to do C and D. We're going to join them together, but just make sure that you line everything up correctly, that all your raw edges are aligning, and if you need to, just pop a pin into there, and that way it won't move on you. But you should be right to go. Like I sewed this one without a pin, and it just fell together quite nicely. But if you're concerned or you're worried that it's going to move on you, just line it up and then pop a pin in there, and you'll be all right to go. And just make sure that all your raw edges are aligning as well. Okay, so we've sewn that together. You can see that that's aligning up quite nicely, and the template will just want to fall where it wants to fall, but you do want to make sure that one center seam is going this way and one center seam is going that way, because it's going to make it a lot easier when we put these two together. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our bottom row and lay it onto our top row, and we're going to nest our center seams. So just nesting like so, and then pop a pin in there, making sure that you're aligning it up on the seam like I like to do. Okay, and you want to just make sure that your angles are lining up as well, so making sure that you're raw edge to raw edge, and you pop a pin in there. And the reason I'm popping a pin in now is because it is a much larger area that I've got to keep together. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sew along this solid line here, reversing at the beginning and at the end, and then our block is complete. Okay, so just remove your pins, and then we can open that up, and there we go. Our cross canoes block is now done. So get rid of any scraggly threads or anything like that, and you can set that aside, and I will see you all again next month for block 7. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do hope that you enjoyed making the cross canoes block. I can just imagine this in a larger quilt. It would look so effective, even in the black, red and white. And if you like this video today, give it a thumbs up down below. Don't forget, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the little bell icon beside it, and that way you won't miss out on any future posts. And for those that don't know, my name's Nicole Reid for Darvanalee Designs Studio, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye for now.